Be me, 26, feminist since sophomore year. Have a degree in sociology and a coffee subscription. Run a small newsletter about labor movements. Good neighborhood. Good coffee maker. Good shoulders from hauling protest signs. Friends call me the coordinator. Apparently I plan everything except who to date. Fair. Decide to open dating apps again. Tell myself no speeches about childcare policy on date 1. Maybe date 2. Open the app. Profiles flood the screen. Gym boys, startup boys, gaming boys who call their keyboard a battle station like it is a war room. Bios about adventure and hustle and getting up at 5. Swipe until my finger aches like repetitive strain injury. Group chat lights up. Roommate says remember to pace yourself between disasters. I say I can multitask heartbreak and homework. She sends a thumbs up. We both mean it and do not. Lunch break at work. Open app again because sandwiches need entertainment. Coworker walks by. He works in logistics. Clean jackets. Knows everyone's coffee order without checking notes. Looks at my screen and says quality control. I say more like risk management. He sits with his packed lunch. Smells like someone who preps meals on Sunday. We talk about algorithms. He says the system favors the loudest performer. I say the system should favor the most honest person. He nods and keeps chewing like he did not just summarize everything. Sales manager passes by. Tells me standards are precious until you end up alone. I tell him dignity is precious always. He laughs like a broken car horn. Conversation ends. End of shift. Open app again because optimism is a condition now. See a profile. Community organizer. Leads housing advocacy groups. Cites Angela Davis without sounding rehearsed. Strong jawline. Genuine grin. Pictures with banners and stages and rescue cats. Bio says he values listening over speaking. Impossible if real. Match. First message is not a single emoji. He asks which issue keeps me awake at night. I type essays like a complete fool. He responds with even longer essays. Arrange a meal. I press a blouse for the first time in half a year. My dog watches like I betrayed our routine. Date arrives. He enters like a warm breeze. Notices my ring because it is handmade by a union worker. Orders dishes I genuinely enjoy without performing sustainability. Discusses legislation, not just feelings. Asks about the newsletter. Says women who organize are not aggressive, they are necessary. I smile so wide the server smiles back. After the meal, he mentions a poetry event nearby. I adore poetry. We attend. Everyone greets him. When someone approaches, he brings me into the circle. Does not act like I am furniture. My expectations do a backflip. We return to his apartment to continue talking. I notice shelves of worn books. No vintage cameras for decoration. No neon that says grind. He plays soft jazz. We argue about mutual aid and urban planning and how labor is care. We sleep like people who believe in each other. Morning brings coffee and daylight and a slow goodbye at the entrance. I drift home. Text roommate that maybe the universe has improved. Week goes by. Messages get brief. Replies delay. I tell myself he is occupied because the movement requires him. My heart is kind like a community center. My gut is skeptical. Friday he postpones with an excuse and a promise. I wear a determined cardigan and meet roommate anyway. The venue has dim bulbs and cushioned seats. I order something that advertises lime and resolution. He appears, same warm breeze, not by himself. A woman accompanies him. They giggle like a secret code. He touches her arm the way he once touched mine. I do not make a scene. I do not weep. I become an empty corridor. Nobody enters. 2 days pass. Someone mentions he spreads attention around liberally. The phrase spreads attention around is performing acrobatics. I applaud the phrasing and reject the truth. Monday shows up like a train that skips your stop. I go to the office. Select lipstick labeled after bravery but apply nothing. Spot the logistics coworker organizing inventory for the creative department. He is steady. He is patient. He is a chair that does not tip. I recall wanting a chair that did not tip. I also recall dancing on rooftops instead. Decide to attempt a new connection. Animal shelter volunteer. Works in technical support. Owns a modest place. Kind chuckle. Writes complete thoughts with commas like he values meaning. Coffee meeting. He rises when I enter, inquires about the newsletter, listens in a manner that rearranges thoughts in my skull. We stroll near the canal. I observe how he waits for permission before holding my hand. I observe how I want to pull away regardless, not because he is cruel, because some part of me tunes into explosions. I return home and feel like a villain in a story I never auditioned for. Message him that he is lovely and I am not right. He thanks me for honesty. He wishes me happiness with sincerity that hurts worse than silence. Middle of the week. Break room at the office. Logistics coworker and I grab for the same cup. I say go ahead. He says please. Our politeness forms a tiny agreement. We discuss metrics again. He says the app is a theater with faulty wiring. Says half the crowd never witnesses half the performers. Says the platform rewards the loud departure. I ask if he always speaks this poetically about inventory. He grins and confesses he gets worse. That evening I journal. Write that feminist thought is also about who we prioritize. Write that my own focus has a ranking that resembles a staircase. WRITE that staircases are difficult to relax on. The following weekend I go to a talk on wage equality. My community organizer is presenting. He is skilled. He is also a performer. Everyone applauds. He surveys the audience like he owns a warm secret. I glance at the person next to me. She is scribbling with intense concentration. She wears a hoodie from a legal clinic. After the session, she raises a point about transit access for night shift workers. The room hums because that question is a hammer and a ladder. Organizer delivers an eloquent response, shares his contact details. The woman nods and exits with a confident stride. I understand she will not require him to be a comet. The ride home stretches. A toddler repeats the same tune badly over and over. I respect the commitment. I resolve to give the app one final week. Make a document like a funding application. Essentials include attention and empathy and respect for boundaries. Preferences include arms that suggest groceries have been carried. Connections appear. I filter less for appearance. I filter more for who asks me about myself. End up at a park date with an educator. He brings sliced vegetables. He also brings a story about a neighborhood that lacks sidewalks. We draft a petition together from a bench. He chuckles when I write like a paralegal. I chuckle when he folds the blanket with surgical precision. It is comfortable and unremarkable. It feels like existing. After the park, he suggests we continue. We walk past a sculpture of women linking arms. He asks who inspires me. I say the people who turn text threads into support networks. He says the janitor who drove him home when his tire exploded. I decide to appreciate his response with my entire expression. We do not embrace. We schedule another meeting. I go home and do not float. I rest. Resting feels revolutionary. Roommate calls. Asks about the gradual connection. I say slower than a permit application. She celebrates like a crowd. She says velocity is a method and so is stillness. I record that. Next week at lunch. Logistics coworker asks how the experiment progresses. I mention the educator. He nods. Says it sounds like a road, not a carnival. Then he removes a stain like it disrespected his lineage. I ask why he avoids the apps. He says he attempted once, but his picture resembled official identification. He says dialogue fits him better than captions. I trust him. That night, the community organizer contacts me unexpectedly. Says he has been reflecting on our conversation about grassroots versus institutional change. Asks if I want to join a gathering with activists. The small alarm in my brain activates. The alarm is charming and hazardous. I respond that I am unavailable. I do not elaborate. Unavailable is laundry and rebuilding confidence. He sends an appealing message with a grin concealed. I place the phone screen down like a statement. Second meeting with the educator. We visit a small gallery. We examine every description like researchers with flexible timelines. He asks if I ever rest from supporting the world. I say sometimes the world is fabric and sometimes it is an entrance. He says he would like to assist with the frame. My ribs perform a silent ovation. We sit on the gallery stairs. He mentions he trains a youth team on weekends. Says funding is scarce. Says he organized an equipment exchange so nobody picks between shoes and meals. I feel something ancient relax. We kiss. It is not fireworks. It is the noise of a light switching on in a secure space. I walk a bit straighter. Days continue. I do not monitor if the organizer viewed my updates. I do not create content to prompt the check. I tend my succulents. One thrives. Achievement. Work is quieter also. I notice the design team hung appreciation cards on the break room board. One has precise writing for the logistics coworker. It reads, "Thank you for finding my error before it became a disaster." It includes a sketch of a tiny dragon labeled "Contain Crisis." I beam like a front porch. On the weekend, the educator and I help at a literacy event. We move containers. We perspire. We joke about how every box holds one middle school edition of an adventure tale with a winged creature. A kid asks if the creature prevails. The educator says sometimes the creature is an ally. My chest attempts to fold laundry again. Later we sit on a ledge eating slices. He asks why I care about feminist principles. I begin my usual explanation. Then I stop. I tell him I want security to be mundane and expected. I tell him I want respect to be the climate. He nods like he has experienced storms and prefers calm. I message roommate that I am uncertain if this is the intensity I used to pursue. She responds that intensity is an effective way to stumble. I select a stroll. Close the app, not as ritual. Just decision. I do not delete it. I simply lose track of where it sits on my screen. The icons shift themselves like a minor uprising. Monday returns. I bring pastries to work because the educator gave me surplus ingredients and obligation. Logistics coworker accepts one and says this is different. One say maybe not different. Maybe reclaimed. At lunch we discuss finances and elections. He says progress is dull and so is compound interest. I laugh and document that also. A week later the community organizer shares content about personal development. I do not examine the reactions. I scroll to images of small animals and accessories and grin without overthinking. The educator sends me a picture of new equipment for training. He purchased them used and cleaned them like treasures. I recognize I care for someone who sanitizes objects before trusting them. Months will advance. Some mornings we will debate chores and schedules. Some evenings we will study different texts with our legs connected. None of this resembles cinema. It is pavement. It supports. I still identify as a feminist, more vocally even, because the existence I am constructing requires that term like a door requires hardware. Because partnership is not legislation, but it still improves with consent and attention and hearing. Sometimes I consider the afternoon at the office when I declared people had grown complacent. I was defensive. I was exhausted. Now I say some individuals pursue validation and some pursue dinners that fog windows. Final moment for now. Weekend ceramics workshop. Educator attempts to shape clay and the clay resists. I pretend not to find it amusing and cannot. My phone vibrates on the counter. A friend forwards a new platform designed for readers and activists. I grin. I do not launch it. We exit with uneven vessels. Mine tilts left. His tilts like an exhausted satellite. We place them on the same surface regardless. I secure the entrance that evening. Lights extinguished. Silent apartment. I wait for fireworks. None materialize. I rest better than I have in years. The conclusion is modest. I prefer it this way. Be me. Still me. Just less attracted to comets. More attracted to chairs that do not tip. Feminism remains, not as examination, as instrument. As a surface we gather around. As a commitment I maintain when nobody observes. Tomorrow I will forget where the app icon exists. I will remember where the equipment is stored. I will remember the literacy event. I will remember the bulletin board dragon. And when someone asks if I remain selective, I will say I learned to choose with both hands, one for excitement, one for safety, both hands occupied. Finally,